This memorial celebration of Chris. My sister Barbara arranged this as a tribute to her beloved husband and asked me to say a few words, and I'm going to keep it brief. I once went to a speech where a guy was giving a talk in a restaurant before they served lunch, and he said to the audience, "I'm going to keep this brief because right now I am the only thing standing between you and food." So I'm going to heed that wisdom. Okay, first off, special thanks to Chris's family for traveling to be here, including Chris's brother John, his wife Ronnie, Chris's niece and nephew, Jenny and Paul. Also, Chris's two sisters, Barbara and Joan, are here, along with Barbara's son and Chris's nephew, Tom. Also here are several representatives of the Berger family, Walter, Wendy, Laura, and myself.
Also the grandkids.
And the grandkids. Okay, the grandkids are here as well. Great, welcome. Okay, and lots of good friends here, and neighbors like the McGee family, and we even have a former beloved boss of Chris's here, Larry. It's not often you get a boss, and it's not often the boss is called beloved. Okay, so we're all here to celebrate a guy who was really something special. Let's begin with some basic facts. After all, Chris was the son of a newspaper reporter, so let's start with the facts. Chris was born and bred in Brooklyn, the son of John, who was a reporter for the New York World Telegram, and Virginia, who worked with St. Joseph's Children's Services. Chris was a very devoted son. He was also the valedictorian at St. Agnes High School. And it's funny because all the years I knew Chris, I did not know this fact until my sister Barbara told me about it. And I think that says something about Chris right there, because there are a lot of people who, if they had been the valedictorian of their high school, you would know all about it because they would somehow find a way to mention it many, many times. But not Chris. Chris was an incredibly humble guy. After studying chemistry at Stony Brook University, Chris embarked on a long and successful career as a research chemist at Drew Labs and Ashland Chemical. Now, you can't always tell a lot about a person by the job they have, but in Chris's case, his occupation was central to who he was. He was a scientist. And being a scientist isn't just a job, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of looking at the world, and a way of solving problems. Scientists by nature are critical thinkers. And this, by the way, is something that our world sorely needs today.
Yeah.
We need a lot more Chris's. We need people who do the research, people who know what the hell they're talking about, people who analyze and then actually solve problems. Now, scientists tend to be skeptical, which is not a bad thing. It means they just want to see the evidence. When I think of Chris, I was going to say scientists tend to have what the scientist Carl Sagan called built-in baloney detectors. Okay? And when I think of Chris, I think of the way he would sometimes tilt his head and squint a little bit when somebody said something that was questionable. He might not even say anything, but when you saw him tilt his head, it was like a polite way of him saying, you might want to check your facts on that statement. But lest we think Chris was only about science and research, he had lots of diverse passions and interests. You could talk to Chris about anything from politics to the New York Giants to Monty Python. He was a true dog lover. I don't think I've ever seen anyone as attached to his dog as Chris was to Coco and later to Maya. Chris also loved to cook. The Berger family benefited from that. He was a master of the charcoal grill, bringing the precision of a scientist to the grilling of a London broil or a smoked turkey. He loved the beach, particularly at Fire Island, where he became an excellent ocean swimmer. He also loved to dance, which he did a lot of at Fire Island in his younger days. In fact, if he wasn't in the water, he was probably on the dance floor at Fire Island's renowned club, the Casino. He would dance until closing time, somehow never getting tired. However, Chris's dancing days would not last forever because when he met and fell in love with his wife-to-be Barbara, he discovered something, that members of the Berger family just don't dance. As Chris would later joke, when he met Barbara, that's when the music died. But it's also when the best part of his life began. He and Barbara were basically inseparable. Above all, I think they shared the same sense of humor. Barbara really made him laugh. And Chris always had a heck of a laugh. You could hear it from 2 rooms away. And while they didn't share the same passion for dancing, they did share the same passion for something else: shopping. Members of Barbara's family have always known that she was a big-time shopper. And I always figured this was something that a future husband was just going to have to put up with. But in fact, Barbara met her shopping match when it came to Chris. He'd been doing it since childhood, and he always did his research, and he always clipped his coupons. Barbara told me that Chris would sometimes go shopping and come home with 2 bags full of groceries. He would put them down in front of her and ask, "How much do you think this cost me?" She'd look at what he bought, and remember, she was an expert shopper herself, and she'd say something like, "Oh, I don't know, around $45 to $50. Then Chris would proudly show her a receipt for $12.50. So Chris and Barbara had a long and wonderful life together here in New Jersey, where Chris was known in the neighborhood as a guy who walked his dog and always had time along the way for a pleasant chat. Or if you needed help, you could count on him for that too. His neighbors, Sheila and Dee, who are here today, recall that when they both got COVID in the early days, when it was really scary, Chris bought a bag of bagels and quietly left it on their front door. Sheila later told Barbara that she never forgot that small gesture and that she remembers those bagels as the best bagels ever. Okay, so now that I've gone and mentioned food, I really better wrap this up. There will be time for more words about Chris in the form of toasts during the meal. So anyone who wants to share anything about Chris should feel free to do so at that time. But in the meantime, I'll just close by saying, Chris loved family and friends. He loved gatherings. He loved food, including the food from this restaurant. And so I'm sure he would want us all to really enjoy ourselves on this day as we think of him not with sadness, but with warm memories and joyful laughs. So here's to Chris and to all of his friends and loved ones gathered here today. Salud.
Salud. Salud.
Chris came from good, on my dad's side, good Ukrainian stock. My grandparents were born and grew up in Ukraine and came here, got the hell out of there right before World War I. Wanted to make sure that Chris had his name show up in the future, so I made sure that his name will appear next month in the Stony Brook University magazine as part of their 50th reunion celebration, because 50 years ago, that's when Chris finished college 50 years ago, so his name and his picture will appear in the Stony Brook University magazine next month. So we'll get
You know, I have to say, I was trying to think of like a key phrase to talk about my brother, and I think what kept coming to my head was "still waters run deep." Because sometimes Chris was really quiet, but there was so much going on. And you know, sometimes he'd share it with you, and sometimes he didn't, but you always knew there was a lot going on. And I just have to share that this week I found out my brother liked to dance. I had no idea. But what was and what. See, none of us knew my brother liked to dance, and it was really funny because he shared his Spotify list years ago. He was, because we were just into things that are free, and he found about Spotify and it was free. You could have free music. He got so excited. He told me all about it, and he had a Spotify list, and he shared it with me, and I really cherish that now. But I thought, he has Disco Inferno on it. You know, my earliest memories of my brother was like James Taylor and Jethro Tull. I'm like, he's got Disco Inferno.
I love that song.
So,
I love
And the
that
Grateful
song.
Dead too.
and the Grateful Dead. And now it kind of makes sense to me.
We get married and he knows I don't dance, right? So he really was valiant in his attempt to get me to dance. He took me to clubs. I remember one. Well, the memories that all sort of fall into the same category. He would take me to a club and I would say, I need a drink. Okay. So then I'd have one drink and then I'd say, I need another drink. And he'd say, come on, we got to get on the floor. No. Now one more. Just one more. One more. And after 3 or 4 drinks, I was totally useless. And he'd get really pissed off, like, this is ridiculous. Like, you can barely walk straight. And now you're saying you're ready to dance. He said, we're going home. And then he'd take me home. And he actually did that like 2 or 3 times. The same routine. Until he finally, he admitted defeat and said, no more.
I have a little reading. Okay. Let this be a loving reminder that someone is missing today. Someone our hearts still hold on to as we travel along life's way. Someone who made life so special for all those who gather here. Someone who won't be forgotten, but cherished from year to year. And now, as we pause to remember, let us fondly recall how dearly each of us loved him, and oh, how he loved us all.
Here, here. I was in the supermarket with him. He'd go down the aisles, and of course he's scouring the coupons and what's on sale. And like a 5-year-old, you just take something and throw it in the cart. And he would be like, whoa! And then you do it again. You know? Just for a cheap laugh, you know what I mean? Because I'm into that. You know? Let's just see how mad he's going to get. Let's see what he's going to do. And he would get crazy. And like throw it out. Like, what are you doing? It was so funny. I thought it was.
And so I would partner with Chris. Chris would partner with me, buddy swim, and he would hold back, and we would swim and make sure that I would get to the end, and we'd always get to the finish line. It was never a race, but you always do. And he always, and even when I was getting better and more comfortable with the waves and such, he would always look out, and he'd always look out for other people to be sure that everybody had gotten to shore. You know, he was very, really good about that.
Very good that way.
The way that he cared for Barbara when Barbara was sick or ill, he was so dedicated. And he would have balloons if she was coming home on the rail saying, welcome. And so that tells you what type of person, and he will be missed, I know for sure, by Barbara. But as a neighbor, a good neighbor, he's missed. And all of ours,
They're the best.
our neighbors,
Yeah.
he meant a lot. So for the family, you knew what type of person he was because he was your family. But as a neighbor, he was just as important and just as good, just to let you know that.
Thank you.
Chris, and every morning as we go to work, it seemed like Chris was waiting for us to come out the door. And he'll bring Coco, and Coco will run up to me, and I'll rub her all over the stomach. And then, before we pull out, by the time Chris get around the corner, I got to stop again because Coco or Maya sees me and we go through the whole routine again. But to have a neighbor that you can talk to about anything, any subject, whatever it may be, we had that kind of relationship.
Chris always being in that backyard when we got home from work, from school, from wherever it was, whatever it was. Chris is one of the first people that we would get to share what happened throughout the day with, and it was just always such a joy to see him either waiting by the fence or Maya or Coco would come run up and we would just get to share our day with them as soon as we got home. It was like that breath of fresh air that was always so normal to see him every day we got home.
You know, every single card, Chris and Barb, Maya, Coco, whoever it may be. And so, yeah, we're just thankful to really have them as our neighbors and always being around us. It's always made everything pleasurable, always made us feel safe, even, you know, just going outside, you always have Chris and Barb.
And we're happy now to have Barb as a permanent member of our household. Like always bringing wine over, we can never say no.
I always have a good appetite.
So we're always with Barb. So, you know, you make the best out of the worst, and we're happy to have you, Barb.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We realize how we all just hit the jackpot. Knowing Chris, he's just inspired us, and you know, his gentleness and his caring, it still lives with us, and it lives within all of us. So I just feel lucky, and I feel like I hit the jackpot for getting to have known Chris. So love you, and I know you're with us. So.
To Chris.